As Naomi said, I do have an honorary visiting role here, so it is nice to visit. Okay, yeah, so thank you for this opportunity to talk about my research. I've been doing Athena for quite a long time now, and she just won't leave me be, right? So here I am again. As Naomi said, I'm currently based in Cambridge, where I will be for the rest of this spring, researching well, the kind of things I'm going to be talking about this evening. One thing I should say is that I literally started last week. So hang on, this is Wednesday, isn't it? So it was last Tuesday I officially started. It is a wonderful thing to be able to just sit in a library all day, a specialist classics library at that. And it occurred to me on my first day there that I hadn't been able to do that since I was doing my PhD. So it's something I hadn't done since about like early to mid-90s. So so after all these years of like stolen bits of research or long treks to places like the Institute for Classical Studies Library, Institute of Classical Studies Library in London, it's a novelty I have that hasn't worn off yet, to be able to just sit in a library and think, I really should check whatever book. Oh my God, I can just get it from the shelf. And then, you know, you browse through things, you see other things. I'm basically doing the kind of things that got me so excited when I was in my 20s. And so I want to share with you where I'm at with the current project at a time when it's still I'd say very much, well, it's still very much in its early stages. So any input will be very gratefully received. So like I said, I'm going to be talking about Athena and sexuality, bringing together these two strands of my research that have been kind of converging for and sort of speaking to one another for some time now. And thinking about this question about what it means to think about what it means to pose the possibility that a goddess has a sexuality and what that might mean for the study of that goddess, the study of classics, the study of gender systems, etc., etc. Now, this kind of topic has, like I said, it's long been an interest to me, but it's also been something that I have previously talked about in Leicester. It was quite a long time ago. It feels a long time ago, and yet in other respects doesn't. Maybe because I'm connecting with my 1990s self right now. The year was 1994. I gave a talk at the Leicester Nottingham seminars from the 90s. It was the main bit of the title was Gorgons, Amazons, and Athena. And it was a conference organized, I think it was organized by no, maybe it was actually, maybe it wasn't one of the Leicester Nottingham things. Yeah, I guess it was a conference organized by Erin Marshall and Mary Harlow, who were then, like now, very dynamic, cutting edge people. So I've spoken previously on an Athena related topic at Leicester, and it's like it's really nice. All these years further on, to be back here talking about a comparable subject at a time when so much has changed, not least in regards how we think about gender and sexuality, or perhaps genders and sexualities. What I'm specifically working on in Cambridge is an article that I'm under contract to write for a handbook of ancient gender and sexuality. It's edited by Alison Glazebrook and Anthony Augustakis. It's the Oxford Handbook of Sexuality. Yeah, okay. It's the Oxford Handbook of Sexuality in Greece and Rome. And in their proposal, which is going to feed into their introduction, they talk very interestingly how they integrate gender very deeply into that topic. And my chapter will be one of several on religion and religious and mythical entities and characters, namely Athena. So, and what I will be doing with that chapter is, well, trying to say distinct things about Athena, but also very much using the example of Athena in order to engage with various issues that are explored in that volume. This is at a time, I would say, when it's very much right to be reflecting on the field of ancient sexuality in light of, that's funny, that worked, Harry. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I did it, I sorted it, see, I did it. It worked earlier, I don't know what I did. Anyway, there we go, we got there. In light of, so it's the time is right to be reflecting on this field in light of recent research into gender and sexuality, both in and beyond classics, in light of amongst other things, in light of revived debates concerning essentialism versus constructionism, and some like broad issues that the volume as a whole is considering, and that my chapter is likewise considering, is such questions as how far are gender and sexuality social constructs, and what therefore might be the implications for classical research. So I'm very much interested in how classicists might engage with broader work being done into gender and sexuality. What I'm also interested is in turn, what classicists might contribute to wider debates, as they have in earlier moments relevant to this topic. I'm just to pull out one example, not least because it's an example that's very relevant to what I'm doing at the moment. Michel Foucault's History of Sexuality, the second volume, the Use of Pleasure, was very much informed by classical research, and that's one thing that Foucault makes very clear in the introduction to The Use of Pleasure. And his approach was very much informed by, amongst others, Sir Kenneth Dover. And what Dover focused on in a way that fed interestingly into Foucault's research, and then was taken to a whole other level by people like David Halperin, was on same-sex relationships, by which Dover meant male same-sex relationships, as asymmetrical, right, where there is a power imbalance, where relationships are mutual, but as he saw it, as Dover saw it, unequal. And so that's one of the things that Foucault was very much drawing from when he turned his gaze to classical times. But then in turn, classicists such as David Halperin, who I just mentioned, responded to Foucault by considering the implications of his work on sexuality, particularly his work on sexuality as a concept that doesn't have any existence before the 19th century. So it's sexuality as a 19th century invention, along with homosexuality and heterosexuality. And Foucault's impact is perhaps can be maybe exemplified very neatly by the before Sexuality volume, like the very title of it, edited by Halperin and others, very much exemplifies Foucault's position, whereby sexuality it is seen today, or it was seen in the 1970s and 1980s, was very much something that is a very recent concept, and has only recently been seen as something that is relevant to one's identity as a subject. So in this perspective, I just want to just think for a moment about my title. Perhaps I'll just go back to it for a moment. What is the sexuality of Athena? So I suppose I could say the question, am I being anachronistic here? If there is no concept of sexuality in ancient Greece, how can I be asking what the sexuality of a goddess is? It is more nuanced than that, and that's something I'm currently very much engaging with. Foucault was an extremely nuanced thinker, and one of the key things he was interested in, this is one of the reasons he turned to classical antiquity, were the modes whereby individuals, by which he mostly means individual men, the means whereby individual men became aware of themselves as sexual subjects. More of a flavour of Foucault and how I'm engaging with, or proposing to engage with Foucault as this talk progresses. What I'm doing is asking the question of what is Athena's sexuality in relation to the current picture of research into gender and sexuality, and how far and current research into how far gender can be separated from sexuality, and vice versa. I'll be engaging with debates around essentialism and constructionalism, as I've said. What I propose to do is to investigate the following areas. The spaces between male and female, and how Athena exemplifies them. How the ancients the gender binary, and how they did that through depictions of Athena, right? So these are all issues that are being engaged with in the volume as a whole. So I'll be doing it very much through, an Athena lens. Also, the potential for reading against elite texts, including the elite texts that Foucault tended to focus on via representations of Athena. And also reading with and beyond Foucault. Now, this is something I've decided to begin with in my time in Cambridge, and so what I've been doing is doing a deeper dive than I've done for decades into Foucault. At a time when we're perhaps at an interesting point for thinking about Foucault and what his contributions were to power, sexuality, classics, etc., etc. One of the things that, just to give you a flavour of where I'm at very quickly, one of the things that Foucault has been I suppose maybe even some is criticised for, is his focus very much on sexual behaviour. All right. So as he focuses on sexual behavior, where, it has been asked, does this leave virginity? And therefore, where does it leave Athena as a virgin deity? If, as I've discussed over the years, it is even right to think of her as a virgin deity. Right? That perhaps suggests already how I might be engaging with all of this. I guess the key term is parthenos. And I remember in the early days of my PhD being struck by how virgin is parthenos can mean virgin, but it doesn't have to. I suppose a parthenos should not be married. Yeah. If a young woman has had sex, has had a child, even, she's still a parthenos. So another translation of parthenos is unmarried mother. Think Creusa in the Ion, for example, or think Athena, right, as someone who is, let's say, involved in the conception of a child, namely Erichthonius. Okay, so Athena as a married mother does, sort of fit the term parthenos. So Foucault was very interested in things like the mastery of the self, and he okay. So I just I suppose the key thing I'd say is that I'm approaching virginity in a way that is whereby I'm not seeing it as a negative or some kind of negative or exclusive category. What I would say in short is that if Athena is conceptualized as a virgin deity, this does not remove her from sexual relations. It's more complicated than that. So in looking right now at Athena, what I'm doing is aligning what I'm doing more than I anticipated with Foucault. Right, I'll expand on this as I move on. So the work I'm going to be doing is about Athena, who, as I've been trying to suggest already, is an intriguingly gendered figure, right? A girl in armor, as one ancient author described her. More on that in a moment. So she's an intriguingly gendered figure, and she's also an intriguing figure to explore in relation to the history of sexuality. So it'll be about this interesting figure. It'll also be about how ancient people experienced Athena. One thing I'll be doing here is seeking to reflect the current turn in scholarship on ancient religion towards how to reconstruct the lived experiences of ancient people when they venerated their gods. And so it's things like very appropriate that this session is following on from Ellie Mackin-Roberts's last week. Ellie is as I imagine she gave a flavour of last time, she is very much seeking to pioneer and foster scholarship that is exploring the sensory experiences and lived experiences of ancient people in their religious lives. So what I propose to do then, through Athena, through the prism of Athena, is to consider how ancient people received and thought about gendered categories, and also how ancient people explored ambiguities of gender, and also how to think about how they contemplated gender norms. Some things now on why Athena particularly. Now, like all gods, like all mythological figures too, I guess, gods are in that term that sometimes gets attributed to Marcel Detienne, the historian of religion, but that I think he was already drawing on. So I still never worked out where it actually originated. Anyway, the term is good to think with, right? So Athena, like all gods, is good to think with. So all of them are good to think with in particular ways. And in Athena's way, it's, amongst other things, connected with what she looks like, her dress, her apparel, how feminine that is, how masculine that is, whether masculine and feminine are too restrictive as terms in order to describe her. Okay, so there's what she looks like, and there's also how she behaves. Now, what I'm just going to, in order to give a sense of how this is often understood by scholars, what I want to do is to turn briefly to the I can't remember the title of the work. Anyway, the volume. Is it Gender Diversity in Antiquity? It's the volume edited by Surtees and Dyer. Anyway, and I was looking forward to be able to take it down from the shelf in Cambridge, but it's on loan at the moment. So what I'm drawing from here is Cheryl Morgan's very beautiful summary of their work. Now I've hyperlinked it here. I can always send the slides if anyone wants to click the link. I don't dare do it. I don't dare do it now in case I can't get back in. Right? Okay, I've already had a few technological issues. I know, I'm here. It seems to be working, so I won't press the button. Okay, so as summarized by Cheryl, as Alison Surtees and Jennifer Dyer put it, Athena is distinguishable for being asexual, right? And I really want to. I've been, one of the things that's been on my to-do list ever since, well, for years now, but all more so when I was invited to give a talk on a conference on asexuality on Athena as asexual. I thought, yes, this will finally motivate me to get my head around all of this. But then the conference was cancelled. So I thought, oh, okay. And then other things got in the way. So maybe there'll be some space now in order to get my head around this finally. But so according to them, Athena is distinguishable for being asexual, for a masculine style dress, for keeping the company of males, and that, you know, this can all readily be, you know, exemplified, right? You know, she hangs out frequently with Hercules, with Odysseus, with Theseus, etc., etc. Ericksonius, wherever he is, son, foster son. Snake, guardian snake, whatever exactly he is. Right, so they say that she's known for, characterized for keeping the company of males, but not being in a sexual relationship with those males. And a counterpart that they identify here is Dionysus, who is characterized for keeping company with women, although not in a sexual way. Generally, there are exceptions. So yeah, anyway, but that's maybe, yeah, let's not go down too much down a Dionysiac route right now, or I'll never stop. Right, okay. So now what I'm, just to respond to some of this, what I'm asking is asexual, and that will lead into an exploration of, you know, what what asexuality is. Okay, and also, is her dress masculine style, right? She, amongst other things, wears a long dress. It seems over simple, at the very least, to describe her dress in this way. And also, does she keep predominantly male company? I want to give a flavour in this talk about how the standard assumption that she hangs out with men and is not interested in the company of other females, but oppresses other females, is perhaps over simple. And can it also be said that she's not in sexual relationships with males? All right, more on that in due course. And I also want to think about what it means to consider all of this in relation to the concept of lived experience. I want to think about for whom she was seen as asexual, masculine, etc. I want to try to think about how particular ancient people responded to her dress, including, crucially, when they dressed as Athena, not least when they performed the armed dance for Athena, to worship Athena, but in a way in which they became Athena. Right, so that they were impersonating her, but they were sort of acting out what she did. Right, they acted out how she danced the gigantomachy into being won by the Olympians. The gigantomachy, that is the battle between the gods and the giants, and how she did that by the periki, the armed dance. And it's a dance that was danced, it would seem, by men. So what does that mean? What does it mean for men to become a goddess, and also for women? So what does it also mean for women to become a goddess? A goddess is not a woman. A goddess is a woman. I think it's very much on the terrain of Nicole Leroux here. What is a goddess? Is a goddess a woman? Can a woman be a goddess, etc., etc.? So one response, I'm just going to go back to the previous slide for a moment, was Lucian's. Right, for it was Lucian who wrote from the mouth, as you imagined it, of Hephaestus. What's this? This is as Athena is being born. What's this? A girl in armor. So here we are in the 2nd century CE in a work of satire. So what you have here is a god's response, right? The response of a god, Hephaestus, Vulcan, to the apparel of the goddess, and he's turned on by it. Right, and straight away, what he does, he asks Zeus to betroth Athena to him straight away, and Zeus does. They're betrothed. Does that therefore mean they're married? And Zeus says, "Yeah, that's fine, but good luck with that." She's got Glaukos eyes, he says. She's got Glaukos, gleaming, bright, dazzling eyes, but they go very well with her helmet. Very interesting. Okay, so that's one response then. The response of Lucian's Hephaestus. Going back to Herodotus. Herodotus's account of an event from the 6th century BCE. Giving a precise date for that is a minefield I'm going to wander through. Okay, not now, but over the next few months. So here's another response. It's the response of the Athenians, the 6th century Athenians, when, according to Herodotus, there are other accounts as well, but they seem to be very much derived in large part at least, from that of Herodotus. So is this an event which this is only one? There's only one source, maybe. So at some time in the 560s, a tall, striking woman named Phae was dressed up by Pisistratus and Megacles, two key politicians of the day. Pisistratus is trying to become tyrant again right now with the assistance of, it's going to be short-lived, but with the assistance of Megacles. So Phae was dressed by them in a way that is done to evoke, to suggest Athena. And she's placed in a chariot and put into a suitable pose. And she's taken into the city up to the Acropolis with Pisistratus. And the Athenians, Herodotus said, venerated this woman, believing the woman. Yeah, so believing the woman, this woman, that woman, hair anthropos, right? So they said he says they venerated what hair anthropos, this female person. I'm going to think about what work this is doing, right? This female person, something like that. What does that mean in the context of a mortal woman's impersonation of a god? So that's this is one example I'm going to be engaging with. So far we've had Hephaestus, a god, Hephaestus's response to Athena and her apparel and appearance. Now we've had the Athenians' response, which was to venerate someone who is impersonating her, and has perhaps become her consequently. Now here's a third example from the Iliad. This time I'm going back keep going back further back in time. So I'm cutting across genres and cutting through time as well. Right, in this third example, it's where Athena's getting ready to join battle. Here no one responds. Therefore, how should we respond to it? Question mark. So because Athena is alone, right? Apart from being watched by the imagination of Homer. So like I said, she's about to join battle. And at the start, before she crosses the threshold of her father's house, she's in female style dress. Okay. So Athena, the daughter of Aegis holding Zeus, let fall upon her father's floor, again it's her father's floor, her embroidered peplos. So she's in female style dress, and more than that, it's something that's self-woven, right? This is very much Athena who wears feminine apparel and also creates feminine apparel as well. She drops it to the ground. So she's let fall the feminine clothing, right, that she was wearing, and all that conveys. And what are we left with? We're left with a moment of nakedness. And what she then does is to put on her father's war tunic, and then further equips herself in battle, where she's not going to be alone. Including where she's not going to be alone even as a goddess, because Hera is going to be there. Another war goddess is going to be there with her. I'm just briefly going to turn to the naked Athena of Portland, Oregon, from what year was it? It was during the Black Lives Matter riots, wasn't it? What year was it? 20? Oh, I can't remember. Was it 20? Anyway, several years ago, when a woman wearing nothing but a head covering and face covering that in some pictures looks helmet-like, stepped out from the crowd naked and face down the armed law enforcement officers during a night of protests and rioting. And she stood there for a while, and then disappeared back into the crowd. When very quickly, the photographer who took the key images and published them immediately, I think, via social media, termed her the naked Athena, and that left a lot of classicists at the time were discussing that made them feel uncomfortable. Right. He got the wrong goddess, for example. Naked Aphrodite's fine, not least because one of the things being suggested at the time about the identity of the woman in question was that she was a sex worker. So Aphrodite is more appropriate. But what I said in response is like, no, the concept of a naked Athena is a perfectly good reception of ancient Athenas. There's a strong tradition of Athena being not just someone who's very robed and very covered up, but also someone who's regularly being disrobed. Right, in preparation for the Panathenea, right? Thinking back to Ellie's topic from last week, the cult statue of Athena would every year at the Plinteria would be divested of its various layers of apparel, taken under conditions of secrecy to the sea at Phaleron to be ritually bathed, and then would be brought back. And that day, right, the day of the Plinteria, was a day of ill omen in the city, where, for example, no public business was conducted. So Athena's nakedness, and that's just give one example, right, is something that is very relevant to ancient ways of worshipping and contemplating Athena. And the Iliad example with this moment of nakedness is I think something that very much fits within this concept of a naked Athena. So what I want to do now, like building further on this Iliad example, is to think further about what it means to contemplate Athena as one who predominantly keeps male company, right? So in the Iliad, she's getting ready to join battle, right? A very male-dominated thing, but not exclusively so, given that, well, there's Athena doing it, and also Hera doing it. So I want to lead from that into what it means to think about Athena as predominantly keeping male company, and also what kind of male company that is. It is intense male company. Think, for example, Athena and Odysseus in the Odyssey. Now, I want to, this is an example I'm proposing to look at, so I'm just giving you my initial thoughts here, building on things I've looked at some time ago. So once Odysseus is washed up on Ithaca, what you get is some interesting verbal sparring between the two that seems very erotically charged, as though they're lovers, maybe. So that's something I want to throw out there for now, and something I want to think about. And they do that before they sit together under the shade of the olive tree to plot Odysseus's campaign against the suitors who've taken over his homeland and want to take over his wife as well. There's also Athena and Heracles there's a lot going on there. There's a lot where, for example, they are shown shaking hands. I want to work out quite why the handshake between them and what's going on there. Particularly because sometimes it's not so much a handshake as one of them, sometimes Athena, sometimes Heracles, doing that hand on wrist gesture that's a standard feature of wedding iconography, where a bride is being represented as someone whose, well, let's say whose consent is problematic. Okay, so it's what is it? It's abduction marriage, I guess. That hand, Kaya Epicarpo, hand on wrist gesture. Sometimes he is shown in a chariot, presumably it's where he's moving like a bride would from his old home on Earth to his new home on Olympus, with Athena groom-like driving that chariot. So it's Athena as groom, Heracles as bride in that context. There's one vase painting of showing a chariot ride that includes the inscription for Athena, the Kore girl, I guess, girl of Heracles, right? I don't know, Heracleus Kore, she's the girl of Heracles. So anyway, a lot there to investigate. Right, so I want to think about what it means for Athena to keep male company, predominantly male company. I also want to think about how it's not sufficient to regard Athena as keeping predominantly male company in the first place. Right, just to give a few examples, I'm not going to go into any of these in detail here. She's found in Persephone's meadow, right, the meadow of that other Kore, right, the ultimate Kore, Persephone, a space of desire, a multi-sensual space. In Callimachus, Athena is the dear companion of a specific nymph, Clariclo, the mother of Tiresias. Okay, that's an interesting one itself. That also fits aligns with what I've said about nakedness, given what Tiresias sees, i.e., what you're not supposed to see, and yet what we kind of see in the Iliad, namely the nakedness, the naked body, naked bathing body in that instance of Athena. Or where there's Odysseus, there's also Penelope, right? Just to give one more example. There's also the Eumenides, where, as on the slide here, she keeps male company, right? She comes in response, not straight away, but she comes in response to a call by Orestes. And she says that what she's going to do, so Orestes, when he's on trial for matricide for killing his mother, Clytemnestra, who had in turn killed his father, Orestes' father, Agamemnon. So Athena says that if the vote between the Athenian jurors is tied, which of course it is, because they can't decide, she's going to have the deciding vote, right? And what she says is that she's going to, well, in order to explain how she's going to vote, if she needs to vote in this way, which she does, what she says is this. Okay, I'm quoting my translation here. Nobody is the mother that gave birth to me. Okay, that's referencing the story whereby Athena was born motherless, or was she? More on that in a moment. From the head of her father, rather than the womb of a mother. Nobody is a mother that gave birth to me, she says. For I am content with, or maybe I approve of, or I consent to the male in every respect, except for undergoing except for undergoing marriage, playing gamotakain, something that makes her Amazon-like, right? Except for undergoing marriage. That exception is very interesting. With every bit of my spirit, and I am exceedingly to patros, I am exceedingly of the Father. So here she expresses her affiliation with all things male. Her father, Agamemnon, I guess Orestes, and also the male more broadly. Except there's more than that as well, right? I don't want to go into this in any more detail right now, but where she says nobody is the mother that gave birth to me, she's also saying that her mother is called nobody, right? She's saying that she has a mother who is nobody, Utis, Metis, right? And Metis is her mother in, for example, Hesiod's Theogony, as well as other sources. The mother who became non-mother and yet was always the mother. Zeus in the Theogony, for example, swallows Metis when she's on the verge of giving birth to Athena. Meaning what? Zeus takes over the pregnancy continues within the body of Metis. So it's Metis being, she's been disappeared, she's been hidden away. So she's been defeated, or is this just a new opportunity for her to bear out her nature as someone who is Metis, right? Who is clever, cunning, or however we're supposed to translate that. And bear in mind that Metis's daughter, the speaker here, the cunning, clever speaker here, is, amongst other things, like Odysseus, who also has an encounter Odysseus, who calls himself Utis, is also polymetis. Metis in many ways. Metis in many ways, cunning in many ways. There's that, right? So Athena manages to say two contradictory things at the same time, that she's female created, and also that she is male created, in the context of her as someone who is very much of the male, as she said. And yet, the last, I wrote here the last X lines, because I was going to count them, but I didn't. The last however many lines, the last chunk, the final chunk of the Eumenides, sees her in a female-only space, right? Odysseus, that's an interesting one. Orestes is gone. Apollo just like disappears, right? Athena's a god who supposedly appears and disappears so quickly, so he does a good job of just suddenly disappearing. So Odysseus is gone. Orestes is gone. Sorry, Apollo is gone, and what we're left with is Athena and the Furies, Athena and the chorus. And so we see her in a very much a female-only space. And there are times where Athena also isn't just among the Furies, but she also echoes their language. And this is all in a cult space where the Amazons once dwelt. There are various bits in the Eumenides where Athena uses the word Utis, and one is regarding herself, but one is in relation to the Areopagus. There is nothing, there is no space that's like the Areopagus, where this male thing has been set up, a trial, but as the polis that was set up originally, according to Athena in the Eumenides, by the Amazons. And then what she's doing is at the end of the Eumenides, she's reworking cultic space on that other city, the city of Theseus, the Acropolis, in order to accommodate the Furies. So anyway, these are things I also want to very much look at over these months. How long have I got? I've got 5 minutes. Okay, right. I've got a couple more. Yeah, I think I can do it. Right, and I can stop at any point and skip over stuff, etc. What I want to do now is think about where worlds come together. Right, I want to think about where worlds of men and worlds of women maybe come together in a poem that has perhaps particular resonance for me, who's someone who wants to explore the spaces between and beyond a gender binary, which is Sappho 1. There's no Athena here, or is there? The evocation that Sappho makes of Athena suggests the Iliad again, where Diomedes evokes Athena, and Athena, like Aphrodite here, comes. Parallels also where Orestes in the Eumenides, as I've just discussed, evokes Athena, and she comes. Perhaps she cannot not, she's been bound to come. And the Aphrodite of Sappho 1 doesn't just come like Athena once did, but she comes as Athena by chariot. It's a sparrow-led chariot, but it's a chariot, and she comes to be the ally in war, to be the Symmachos, right, the co-fighter, the Symmachos of Sappho, as Athena was for Diomedes. Right, I can expand on all this if you want to. I'm showing, I think, that it's not sufficient to divide up intimate space of desire and for Aphrodite and war for Athena, right? And there's so much more I could say about armed Athenas and armed Aphrodites at Corinth and Sparta, etc. I'm going to end with indeed with the Homeric hymn to that goddess, to Aphrodite, whose power to make entities fall in love, whose power to stimulate love covers all living entities and all living creatures, apart from three goddesses. Artemis, Hestia, and Athena. Yet these goddesses, in a hymn to Aphrodite, are all envisaged in the space of that goddess, right? Athena here is someone whose desires define how she behaves. The desire to do battle, the desire to inspire the making of intricate objects, right, like the young women who make beautiful garments, as Athena herself does in the Iliad passage we looked at, included by young women in the home. So basically, you know, the kind of woman that Athena is in the Iliad when she isn't doing battle. So I'm now going to end with this Athena, right? This Athena who is found in the spaces that are both male and female. In the space of tar aphrodisia, the things to do with Aphrodite, sexuality even, right? To give the best approximation. It's the best approximation in Greek of our sexuality. So what then is the sexuality of Athena? I suppose it's intense. It's channeled to experience emotions. It's multi-sensual. It is connected with battle and with crafting. And Athena is someone who elsewhere crafts children without having sexual intercourse, where she parents children. Including Erichthonius, as I discussed, Alkines, this strange armed band, in some sources that I want to look at. So, like I said, then I've ended with Athena in sort of spaces between male and female. Athena is someone who's always becoming. Someone who should be outside anything that Foucault was interested in. Although Foucault didn't presume to talk about female subjectivity. But Athena is far from sexually absent. That is one thing I would say. What she does is she produces I guess she produces alternative forms of intimacy. So Athena, in terms of her sexuality, she's not someone who lacks sexuality. She's someone whose sexuality is full of potential and full of possibility. And that's basically all I'm going to say for now. Thank you. I think it's about an hour, isn't it? Yes. Yes.
That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you. And I want to talk more to you at the pub, but not right now because I'm sure everyone else also has questions. So we'll open it up to questions in the room or online.
Hi, thank you so much for that. That was amazing.
Thank you.
I'm really interested in the comparisons between Athena and Dionysus, and
yes.
the thing that they have in common, which is both having spent part of their gestation, let's call it, within Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
And Zeus is a potential sort of medium for gender nonconformity. If you could say anything on that, I would love that.
Yeah, because I closed it down, didn't I? I said I could open this up, and I decided, like, no, I can't go there as well. Now, so one of the things I'm seeking to challenge is this over-simple contrast between Athena and Dionysus, as you know, one who's very feminine and sexualized, the other as Dionysus, the other Athena not being. I'm struck, for example, by exactly what you said, that they are both offspring of the body of a father whose body has become feminized, I guess. So what therefore does that mean? They're both, in a sense, I suppose you could say, Dionysus is literally called the twice-born, in the sense that he was born from the already born from the blasted death womb of his mother, when she's been killed. So he already he's died. He's been blasted into immortality, and then is sown a second time into the thigh of Zeus and born again. What does that mean? What does that mean about his divinity, for example, his connection with Zeus? The first bit, the Dio bit of his name, links in with Zeus as well. You've also got Dionysus as the whole thread of Dionysus as the successor of Zeus, and Athena fits into that very intriguingly as well. I didn't have time to go into it in any detail, but in the Theogony, for example, Athena was too threatening to Zeus to be born as she was supposed to be from the womb of Metis, her mother, because of a prophecy that Zeus had received. So again, it's Zeus trying to secure his future. So he hears that Athena was prophesied to be someone with strength and power, strength and cunning, that was going to be equal to that of her father, which maybe fits with Dionysus as this sort of continuation of his father, maybe as reflected in the Dio bit of his name. In Athena's case, something else was going on, in that she was meant to be twins, or at least another child was meant to be born of the same union. So what was prophesied was that Athena was going to be born first, but then another child was going to be born, a son who was never named. So you've got a nice contrast there between Dionysus, whose name is evoking this strange place neither, but also Dio, Zeus, God, whatever. But this son who's never named in Hesiod, who was going to overthrow Zeus. So what's Zeus therefore doing? Is he trying to stop the birth of the son, and Athena as a kind of byproduct of this, collateral damage or whatever? Or is the threat of someone who's equal to him also quite horrific to Zeus? So what does it therefore mean to him what does it therefore mean for him to bear Athena? Does it mean that he's now mediating her birth and taking control of it as something patriarchal? Or does it mean that Metis is the one who actually wins because her child is born after all? And where does that leave the other son? And this perhaps has an interesting fit with Dionysus as a successor of Zeus, because in another Hesiodic work, a fragment of, well, it might be Hesiod. It might be Hesiod. It might even have been the original account of Athena's birth in the Theogony, or it might be something vaguely contemporary with the Theogony. Something else is born at the same time as Athena, or someone else is born. It's the Aegis as this living thing. And more than that, Metis actually conceives Athena and the Aegis after she's been swallowed. So it's like, so Zeus is the marginalized one here, I suppose. And so what does that mean about, amongst other things, Aegis holding Zeus? What does it mean about how Zeus is always under threat and always needing to seek control? What I'm trying to convey is there's lots of responses I could have to your question. I hope that at least showed I'm thinking about it. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, we can liaise about it. Yes. Sorry, I got carried away. With the answer, but your question is just like, yes, thank you for asking, because that's what I wanted to say but didn't let myself. Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to have given you the opportunity.
Oh yes, I'm happy you did. Thank you.
We have one quick question online from Danica, who has said, to me, Athena comes across in modern parlance as a flying monkey for male entitlement and validation. Can you challenge this?
A flying
monkey for male entitlement and validation. In modern parlance, yeah.
What does flying monkey mean?
Like a lackey or someone who's doing.
Oh, God, I got it. Well, I suppose I would say she both is and she isn't. I think that's the one. So she's very much seen as this sort of extension of Zeus, this enabler of Zeus, this enforcer of Zeus, and yet the story of her origins both reflects that, but also potentially challenges it. It's Athena as the would-be or perhaps actual successor of Zeus. She helps Heracles, but in the Iliad, she moans about how she's always being called by her father to help him. So she's doing it, but she doesn't like doing it. Don't know what that means. I suppose you can be a flying monkey and not like being that, I guess. There's also the Athena who is very much a woman's goddess in myth and cult. And there's the Athena who is very much, I think, conducive to be looked at in relation to just going back to, third wave feminism, whereby patriarchy, I suppose it's patriarchy, just where patriarchy seems at its most secure, there are fissures. So just where Athena seems to be making an ultimate, she's piling on her various paternal and patriarchal affiliations, and yet what she's also doing is contradicting those and presenting a more matriarchal representation of herself that fits with the Amazons, in whose space she's conducting the trial on in the first place, and also in denying a mother, she's also naming her mother. So Athena always goes both ways, right? She's very patriarchally defined, but she's also one who is in this whole line of maternal and matriarchal power. So there's something Amazon-like about her. I want to do as deep a dive as I'll have time to do into the Oresteia, and particularly the Eumenides, to think about what we're supposed to do with Athena as someone who keeps going on about metis, and keeps naming the conditions of her extraordinary birth as coming from conditions where being should not be possible. Very much want to think about how far Clytemnestra can be looked at through the prism of Athena, and the other way around. So my answer is that I think you're right. She is, but she also is not. And thank you for your question. It's really, which I can't see. I'm looking at Naomi's laptop instead of looking at you. So.
Okay. Well, I think we will leave it there. Do join us at the Clarendon for a continuation of this. I know I, for one, have a lot of things I would like to pick your brain about. Join us next week, where we will have Dr. Mariana Pinto Leitao Pereira talking about the waterborne communities of Macau and the heritage of seascape to landscape migrations in the Pearl River Delta. But for now, a thank you to both our online and in-person audiences. And if everyone could join me in thanking our speaker once again for an absolutely phenomenal talk.